Good evening, everybody. Hi, this is Sherry Sims, founder of Black Career Women's Network, and welcome to another career conversation. Tonight, we're going to be talking about your career, your way, owning your career and making it happen. But we're going to be talking about that in a different way, not the traditional type of way of actually owning your career. First, a couple of things before we get started. Hello, viewers. Well, thank you for watching. If you're not a member of Black Career Women's Network yet, please do so. Join us at BCWNetwork.com and also join one of our local networks we have as well. Tonight, we're going to be taking our questions from Twitter. So feel free to tweet your questions to us at BCW Network so we can answer your Twitter questions, or at my personal Twitter, which is at BCW Network CEO. So you can also tweet your questions there. Or if you are actually in the Google Hangout watching, please type your questions in our question and answer box. And that way I can answer them as well. I want to go ahead and start by sharing 3 things with you. When I talk about being strategic in terms of 3 ways to be strategic, to really take charge of your career, what is being, really creating your career your way means? And it's a couple of things. A lot of us, especially as Black women, and it's a natural process. We go to high school, we go to college. The purpose of us getting out of college is to get a good job, right? But all of us are going to take the traditional path or the traditional straight. There's not always a straight line to be able to achieve those career milestones that you want to achieve for yourself. And sometimes it's going to be loops and turns and mountains and peaks and valleys and things like that are going to happen through your career. And you need to be able to rethink what are your next steps, or rethink what do I need to do differently? Or maybe you desire to change. Maybe you're desiring to do something different or radically change the game in terms of what your next steps are going to be. Even for those of you who are loving what you do, but there's nowhere else for you to go where you are. This is what you need to do in terms of thinking about how you're going to design and take charge of your career and do it your way. This career conversation tonight is not for ladies who are have fear in the way, or don't know who they are, or still looking to build that confidence in terms of what direction should I go. This is for women who are ready, who are hungry, who are have a burning desire to do something different, and are opening their minds to thinking outside the box as to what that could be. And that's what this is about tonight. So I got my phone and my iPad ready, ladies, so tweet your questions, and we're ready to go. 3 things I want to share first before we talk about these strategic ways. The first one is intuition, discovery, curiosity. These things are something that you're going to need if you want to look at creating the career you want, and also thinking outside the box. What I want to share with you is some of the things that I experienced in my career. I had to get creative. I had to think and be resourceful in terms of how I wanted to design my career and do it in a way that I was going to be happy with it. I knew early on that I had the type of a background that my career could not be designed for the straight way. That I knew there were going to be peaks and valleys, and there was going to be some setbacks and some challenges, because I tended to discover specific things in myself that I knew I wasn't ready for or wasn't aware of. But when you are aware of what you have and what it takes to go to the next level, intuitively, do you have what it takes on the inside? Because we can have it here, but then do we really have the drive and what it's going to take to move forward? So let's talk about intuition first. When I decided that I wanted to change careers, and early in my 20s, I didn't really have a career. I was doing customer service jobs, call center jobs, things of that nature. And then I said, you know what? I really want to make a change. I know that I can do so much more, but I didn't know where to start. And as I began to look at what did I have within myself to do that, when I was thinking about positions, I thought, what do I want to do? I didn't know how to discover what that was. I didn't know where to start with that. But the first place you need to start when you want to make those changes, if you're happy with your job, but you know it's a dead end, if you want to make a radical change from where you are, you have to look at within yourself first. That is where you need to start. Not what you look like on paper with your resume, but what do you look like on the inside? What is it that you have or do not have that you need to work on internally that can help to drive you and push you to open your mind to see how you're going to go about going to the next step? For example, I had taken a temporary job. This was years and years and years ago, and I was listening to this lady, and she was talking to another candidate before me. So as I was waiting in the chair and listening to her talk, I'm thinking, I can do her job. I can ask those interview questions. I can check her availability, all these different things that she was doing. Now, granted, I was on the other end waiting for her to call me in so she can give me this brief interview so I can look for attempt to hire assignment. And at the time, I'm sitting here thinking, man, I can do her job. That sounds so easy. It was something I felt like, man, I could do. So when it was time for me to go in and meet with her, and we started talking, and she started asking me, what is it that I wanted to do? I share with her, what my skill sets were, what I had done, what I'm able to do. And then she just asked me out the blue, she says, well, have you ever thought about being a staffing consultant? And I said, you know what? As a matter of fact, I was just sitting outside your office listening to you and was saying that I can do what you do. And she said, yes, you can. And so she scheduled an interview with me for her director, who happened to be out of town at the time. And so I had to wait about 2 weeks until she returned, and I interviewed and got the job. And that's how it happened. Now, did I go in and sell myself for this role? Absolutely not. That was a divine intervention. In my mind, it was anyway, because I really thought, oh, wow, in my heart, I knew I could do this. And because I did believe that within myself, guess what? I went around that partition, and it was not my time to interview with her. I didn't mention a word about what I had believed in my heart, but she happened to say that. So go figure, right? And from there, I worked in the staffing industry for a couple of years. And when I decided I was ready to do something different, I was thinking, what is that? What is next for me? I've done staffing and for 2.5 years. I feel like I've already mastered it. I don't want to be a branch manager because that's not kind of work I do. And I said, what's next? And I had, started to look at a corporate recruiting type of role. And I said, okay, well, what do corporate recruiters do? So I researched corporate recruiters, what they do, how much they get paid, what the salary is, the skills and qualifications. And if I meet that, and I thought, oh, I can do all this because I pretty much do it now. Building relationships, all those things. The one thing that tripped me up is at the time I didn't have a completed education. And I felt like that was going to be my roadblock because I had not completed my education. So I thought, oh, okay, well, this is going to be a roadblock. So this is going to be tough for me to do. And I thought, wow, maybe I need to think about something else because a lot of these are looking for a certain amount of education and I don't have that. I didn't have a 4-year. I didn't finish to have a 4-year degree. So I thought, okay, well, that's out. And so, I'm continuing to work. But when I got laid off of that staffing job, and I said, okay, so now I need to think about, do I want to work in staffing again, or what do I want to do? So I applied for some positions online, and there was a contract recruiting job, and the light bulb went off. That's when I said to myself, you know what? They're not looking for the education, but I sure have the staffing background for this contract recruiting job that would be a good match. So I applied. They called me in. I interviewed and I told her, although I don't have corporate recruiting experience, these are the things I've accomplished in terms of turning around accounts, building hours, all the things I've been able to achieve and the skills I was able to obtain as a staffing consultant, and turn it around and use it as a corporate recruiter in this contract role. It was just a 3-month role, so she really had no risk involved. And I got the 3-month job. But I say this to say is that you have to think creatively and outside the box, strategically think creatively outside the box to build your career. What I did, or what I was able to do, was build that for myself. So when that 3-month assignment was over, I did a great job for that assignment. And guess what? My phone rang, and I got a call from another call center that was locally from their recruiting manager, who said, "Hey, I heard you did a great job there. Can you come do an assignment for me?" So at that point, I realized, hey, this is how I can gain my corporate recruiting experiences by doing these contract recruiting jobs. And it's giving me the experience I need, which is helping me to become more marketable, which once I get a certain amount of experience, not having that degree will not stop me. So what I was doing was accepting the assignments, accepting these contract position jobs that no one wanted to take because they want the benefits. They want the full-time packaging. Where for me, the benefit was having the opportunity to gain the experience as a corporate recruiter. That was my benefit. So I'm here to talk about the strategic ways to build your career, not in the traditional sense in terms of taking that straight and narrow, but looking objectively at your career and being resourceful enough to think outside the box to be able to be in the role that you desire to be in. So as I started working these contract recruiter jobs, I started to build a reputation for myself as someone who was a great call center recruiter, but also at the same time, people knew that I would accept, these contract recruiter roles. And then I also took it a step further. And in my intuitive side of me said, okay, yes, it's not just enough to be a corporate recruiter. You want to diversify being a corporate recruiter, which means I wanted to be able to be a recruiter that can hire for many roles, not just for call center or specific ones. So I want to accept assignments that would stretch me outside of my comfort zone and give me an opportunity to hire for not just call center reps, but pharmacists or nurses or IT reps, project managers and things of that nature in different industries that can make me more marketable to where I can be more attractive to an employer because of my diversified experience that will outweigh, in some instances, for some employers, the education. And that was important for me to have that. So, and how do you think about going about thinking outside the box? Well, you've got to listen to your gut. You also need to be curious enough to explore and cut the fear factor out. Because that's what keeps you where you are, because you're afraid I can't pay the bills, or if I leave here, what's going to happen next? Or you get so comfortable in that role that you're not learning any new skills to take you to the next level. So you have to always be in tune with your feelings, not necessarily your feelings, but being intuitive, but be realistic. Being realistic in what that means. So the intuition is always going to be number one in terms of what's going to be next for me and discovering what are you drawn to. So some of the viewers on here may be ones that are looking to make a drastic or radical career change. And some of the time we have a question already too. And some of the times when you are thinking about that, you have to look at the overall picture. You cannot take your career to the next level if you're not willing to take risk. Everything is not going to be safe, and everything is not going to be in that straight line. So I'll go back to what I was talking about when I was building this career as a corporate recruiter. And I got to a place where, okay, I've done this now for, several years, and I want to look at what's next now. So here's a question from us. Hi, Whitney. Thank you for your question. Whitney says, how do you determine to choose skill sets outside of the box? It's not necessarily, Whitney, thank you for your question. It's not necessarily about determining to choose skill sets outside the box. It's more or less around what are you going to do idea-wise to think outside the box to make it happen. So, or if you're talking about a specific skill set that you need to obtain, how are you going to attain that skill set outside of the traditional manner? Now, if that's the case, then be resourceful. One of the things I did that was able to help me to understand the nature of being a corporate recruiter in the very beginning when I was taking those contract roles, I was online all the time, reading definitions of things when it comes to the world and the jargon of being in that world. What is a service level agreement? What is a contingency fee versus a retaining fee? I knew how to extend offers, and what does rescind offer mean? I knew what rescind offer meant. So some of those things that I need to learn in terms of the terminology. And as I looked at what was necessary for me to build my career, and that's when I was able to feel a little bit more confidence in terms of, okay, I know for sure that now I can catch on to what this is. I knew I had the ability to do the job in terms of the communication, the processing, the onboarding processes, background checks, drug screens, interviewing style, because all those things I had already developed. But going to the corporate recruitment side helped me to really build on my relationship building skills, developing a strong communication style, and noting those things. So you have to look at creating options and ways to do that. So Whitney, I hope that answered your question in terms of that. And then when you're thinking about choosing those skill sets, you got to think about the skill sets that you want to add or that are going to be the most valuable to what you're trying to do. So for example, Excel spreadsheets. I don't have to be a whiz Excel spreadsheets for what I currently do, but for someone who's in accounting, being very savvy or having very advanced, experience using Excel spreadsheets may be very beneficial to their job. So think about those types of things when it comes to doing that. But, I say when you talk about being strategic and the ways that you can do that, the number one for me is being intuitive, being in tune with who you are, having that intuition to know what could be next for you or what you're drawn to. Another example of what I mean by that is when I decided that I no longer want to work in human resources, I said, what do I want to do next? I want a new job where I can take all my experience that I have in human resources and use it in a different way. When I worked at a job fair, I was covering for a person and I worked at this job fair for her. And a lady came to my table and she talked about how she was looking for, companies to work with, to partner with for their organization. And I was looking forward to kind of really have a community initiative. And when we got together and she talked about what they did, oh my gosh, I lit up. I thought, this is next for me. This is what I want to do next. And that was something that came from the core of me. I felt very excited hearing about what they were doing, that I wanted to volunteer my time, even though I wasn't employed there. So I used the volunteer experience to actually open up a door to another opportunity for me. And some people say, well, I don't have time to volunteer. I don't have time to do that. Yes, you do. You make time for what you want to do. And I made time to go and do mock interviews. I made time to do professional development classes. I made time to share experiences with these members who were going through this program and preparing themselves for a job or career. And I did that because it was something that I felt drawn to do. It made me feel alive when I did that. So those are opportunities that you can strategically position yourself for, opportunities that's outside the box, where you, instead of just thinking a straight line way, in terms of this is how it's going to go, because it's not going to always go that way. Hence, that opportunity turned into a full-time job for me, and I completely changed careers. Bye-bye HR, here comes career coaching. And I was very thrilled. And it put me on a new journey to self-discovery for myself, because once you get there, the ride and the flow, that's when it begins, because now you're discovering more things about yourself. When I changed jobs and became a career coach and working for them, I learned that I was a strong facilitator. I learned I had natural public speaking skills. So being able to take that risk financially, because I took a big, huge pay cut to do it. I took that risk, but I discovered so much more about who I was as a professional, and actually more gifts that I shared that were actually that were innate things about myself that I wasn't using in my career as an HR professional. So sometimes when you take that risk, which is number 2, being strategic is that you do have to take some risk, and you cannot be afraid of that. Fear is going to hurt you, hold you back. And I have been told this many, many years ago, what you fear, you create. And if you want to move forward strategically in your career, you cannot do that. If you're looking at it from a closed mindset of being straight on target or having a straight line and thinking it's all going to go one way, you're not being realistic. And especially as an African-American woman in the workplace, you do have challenges. There are things you are going to need to overcome. We do sometimes wear our emotions on our sleeve when it comes to the workplace, because someone will say something, we're like, oh, did you just say that to me? Did he just say that to me? Oh, did I hear that right? So those are some of the things that you have to think about in terms of being in line with that. You have to know how to take risk. And we're not talking about leaving yourself behind and not, and just, not paying the rent and getting your light bills to pay. We're talking about being smart about the choices. So here's another question we have from Whitney. What are the signs of knowing when the risk is right for you? And Whitney, how you know the risk is right for you is two things. You have to be smart about it. First, you got to go with you have to go with that intuition, that gut. What is it saying in your spirit? How do you feel about this role? How do you feel about the task? Is it something that's resonating with you? Do you feel alive when you think about doing this job? Are you excited about that? And then two, look realistically, is it going to be beneficial for you? When I decided to make that leap from being in corporate America to going into this nonprofit world and becoming a coach, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm about to take a huge pay cut to do this. But you know what? The work itself and what I feel like I was going to be gaining, that was going to be making me open and grow, was worth taking the pay cut and balancing things out from that perspective. So you've got to think about not just now, but how is this choice going to be long-term for you in the future? And that is part of being bold in taking your career to the next level and doing it your way. And for me, I did it my way. How I did it my way? Because I decided I don't want to do this anymore. And I wasn't afraid to make a change. I wasn't afraid to take a pay cut, to learn, to do something new. And what I discovered so much more about myself in taking that risk that I would have never known about myself had I stayed where I was. And it put me on a path, a divine path to that. Because here we are, BCWN, there's a sign back there, over there, right over there somewhere. And it's putting me on a path that I strategically I didn't know would have a network like this when I took that job. I just knew that coaching was something I desired in my heart. And I felt like it was something that was a natural gift for me that I discovered just by listening to what she was saying. I knew I could do it, and I knew that was next. So you have to have that belief that you can, and you can't be afraid to try. We have another question, and this one is from Lavita. Is this Lavita? Hi, Lavita. I think this is her. What are some things you did or could do to build your outside of the box career when funds are limited? What are your thoughts on bartering for products and services? Yes, it is you, Lavita. I figured that. Hi. Well, one other thing I can say is that for those of you who don't know, and then, I'm an open book, I am a single mom. I do have a teenage daughter. And so when it comes to being able to build a career on the funds, unlimited funds, I know what that's like. But you still have to look at it. When I decided to take that risk from going into this corporate recruiting world where I took a $30,000 pay cut to go into this nonprofit job, I did have an end result in mind. The end result was to be a corporate recruiter and also become a facilitator, where I'm actually the facilitator doing training and doing the training for these workshops. That was really my end result, was to do the coaching and then become a facilitator and do the training for these job readiness programs. My end result was not BCWN. That kind of came along in the process in terms of discovering some other things. And that story I can share with you. That's for a whole nother hangout. But what I did was I looked at it, and yes, financially I was losing a lot, but I felt like what I was going to be gaining in terms of a new skill set of being able to take the wisdom and experiences that I learned from my previous career and using it in a different way is what gave me energy and what gave me said, you know what, I'm going to take this risk, but it's not going to be this way for long. So you got to have the right mindset. You got to be confident, and you have to be not afraid to discover new things about yourself. So if you came on this hangout to really think about what kind of hardcore ways I was going to give you strategically to change your career, this really is all about you. This is really all about you, not three hardcore ways to do that, but thinking about who you are within yourself and what to do. Lavita, I can say as far as another thing is concerned, find out about as many of the free resources that you can. And utilize those to the best of your ability. And you'll be surprised how much is out there. When I first started the network, I was using everything free possible. And you can do that and still produce a quality service and a quality product. But if you have the right vision for what it is that you want to do for yourself, you can make that happen. You can make that happen. You know, for someone who can't afford to take a class, you're like, well, Sherry, all this sounds good and all that, but in order for me to become a project manager, I got to have my project manager certification. That might be true. But at the same time, are you looking for resources in your area online that may be offering free certifications, or may borrow or give you a grant or something to pay for that? Have you researched what's out there? So you just can't sit on your laurels and think that it's going to happen. You got to dig and see what's out there and what's going to work for you. Thanks, Lavita. Jump right in and ask me another question if you got it. This question is from Leah Jeffers in Chicago. Hi, Leah. So glad you're on tonight. I can't see you, but that's okay. She says, thank you for this platform. Can you provide me some ideas for honing your interviewing skills in today's competitive and challenging market? This is a good one. All right. So I'm a kind of an old school gal, and I come from the background of interviewing styles of behavior-based interviewing and targeted selection interviewing, where targeted selection interviewing, it's a lot like the behavior-based, but targeted selection, or what they call DDI, where it's from DDI International. It focuses on specific competencies. So these questions are based on competencies. Now, I know there's companies out there who do these, non-traditional types of interviewing styles. So when you go in, they're asking you to sing, or they're asking you to flip over a table, or asking you to some really things that you may not be comfortable with, but it depends on their environment. But when it comes to your interviewing skills, there's 3 things I want to share. The first one is you definitely need to own the room. And we're not talking about going in talking about I'mTheBomb.com. We're talking about going in, knowing who you are as a professional, and being able to describe that in less than 30 seconds. All the way down to being able to say what your name is, how many years of experience you have, what your strengths are, and maybe add one personal thing. So, for example, Leah, they can say, my name is Leah Jeffries. I'm a project manager. I've been in project management for 10 years. I've worked on 50 diversified projects, from brick and mortar to, with a bank, to a skyrise with, Chicago National Bank. And I'm also a Cubs fan. Bam, boom, there you go. Or, or add your strengths in there too, and with Leah, since you're doing the top 5, you can add your top 5 strengths and into that. And that could be your what I call a 30-second debut. Now, some people don't agree. They think that's old style, school style. That's fine if they don't agree with that. But some people still want to know. When they say, tell me who Leah is, you better be able to prepare to tell them who you are as a professional. And we're not talking about, your personal life, saying, my name is Leah Jeffries, I'm 40 years old, I watch The Empire, that type of thing. You want to be able to let them know who you are as a professional, and do that with confidence and own it. The second thing is be prepared to share your experiences. What I mean by that is be prepared to share some of the things that you have done in your career. So they say, tell me about a time, and everybody knows those kind of questions. But what you want to do is really think about the types of things that you experience that that can be very impactful in terms of how you will be able to resolve whatever that was, or accomplish whatever that was. And I remember specifically in an interview one time, I had a manager ask me, tell me what your biggest mistake was. And I was honest. And I said, I was hiring, and I had I had a deadline to meet, and we were trying to hire a bunch of people. And I had 2 people I hired with the same name, and the background check came back, and it was the same name, but it was the wrong person. And I had hired the wrong person for the other name that's supposed to have the clear background. Well, the one I hired really had the bad background, which didn't come back till later. And the one I hired, which was the one that had the good background, ends up not getting hired. So and his rap sheet was longer than I don't know what. So I went to my box with an empty box and said, I made a mistake. Do I need to pack my desk up today, because this is a huge mistake? This background check is like 10 pages long. So I was being honest about the mistake, because that's exactly what it was. But even though I shared the mistake, I told them, I said, I already knew that there was a possibility I may lose my job because of this mistake. And I owned up to it and walked in her office and said, I've made a huge mistake. Do I need to pack my desk? And she was like, girl, please. I told her what happened, and she was like, we'll handle it. We'll take care of it. And thank goodness that the person was a good worker and they were able to keep their job, and so did I. But I was honest about that. But you also have to remember your audience too, and don't share an experience that you know that probably will not get you the job. So just be strategic about that. Me sharing that, I knew that was going to show honesty, a level of accountability, and also that I'm human. But also that at the same time, being aware that an error like that could cost me my job, and that I was making sure it would never happen again. So just making sure that you be prepared to share, and do it before you go to the interview. Think about some things that you may be asked and be prepared to share those specific stories. And the third thing is that when you go into the interview, you want to make sure that you are also interviewing them. I'm a very big component of this. When I used to work for the nonprofit, they knew I was big on, that candidate interviewing that employee, because it's a two-way street. I tell my clients all the time that you don't know what you're walking into when you accept that new job. It could be a war zone, or it may be Candyland, who knows? But you won't know until you get in there. You already have to, once you get into the job, you already have objectives of things you need to assess. You need to assess who you're working with. You need to assess the culture, the hidden workplace rules, who could be potential allies, who could be the potential sabotagers. All these things on top of learning how to do your job and do it within the objectives that they have and the expectations they have for someone in this role. So, but at the interview, you want to be able to ask them strategic questions, and really, in a slick about way, ask them questions to where they are being interviewed just as well. For example, if you are interviewing with the person who you're going to be reporting to, ask them to describe their management style to you. It's important for you to know what that is. If they say, I'm a hands-off person, and you know you're someone who needs a little bit more hand-holding or direction in the beginning, then you kind of already know that you may have to, if you want this job, you may have to become a little bit more self-sufficient and being able to find out what you need on your own. Or if you have someone who says, you know what, I really like to kind of be in the mix of everything. I like to kind of have my hands in all the cookie jars, and I want to be able to know what's going on. And I report, I like my person to report to me every week about what's going on. Then you got a micromanager. Are you willing to work with that? So, them being able to share with you what their management style is can help you to make a sound decision on if it's going to be the right place for you to work. Because it might be your dream job, but it could be in the wrong place if you are in the wrong environment. And then also, too, in a combination of that, think about if your personal values are going to be in line with theirs. If your personal values aren't in line, then more than likely it's going to be a good balance for you. If it's not, you will have challenges. And again, sometimes you won't know that until you get into the environment, what you've walked into. And so those are some of the things, Leah, that I say that you can actually think about doing when it comes to interview skills today. Another question you can ask them is, in terms of what are the expectations of someone? What are you wanting this person new in this role to accomplish within the first 30, 60, 90 days? You want to set yourself up for success. You don't want to be looking for another job after you've been there for 30 days thinking, oh my gosh, what have I gotten into? So you just want to make sure that you're being very clear on what it is that you're wanting and what you're expecting when you get into this role. So thank you for that question, Leah. I appreciate that. Second thing I want to talk about in terms of strategic ways that you can, the strategic ways that you can, boost your career. I want to talk about exploration and discovery outside of just the risk-taking piece and what that means. So for some people who don't know what they want to do next, they may contact a friend, they may get a career coach, they may go find a mentor. But are you doing the work? Are you doing the work with your career coach or with your mentor or someone that may be working with you close by? Maybe you have a tribe of people that you're working with or a village of people that you're working with, but are you really doing the work that it's going to take? Like I said, tonight is not about, the straight, narrow way of doing this. This is about you doing the work within yourself and being realistic about where you are and looking at that and saying, do I really have what it takes? Not only do I have what it takes internally in terms of no fear factor, being able to take the risk intuitively, am I listening to my gut? And then how am I going to do that? And then when I face these roadblocks, am I going to give up, or am I going to find another way around that back door to get in? And I remember specifically reading an article from Angela Bassett when she said, I had been turned down. I had been going to audition after audition after audition, and I kept getting turned down. And she went to a very prestigious school, and I think she went to NYU School of Performing Arts in terms of, getting her, establishing herself as an actress. And she said, one day I just realized that I'm not going to be able to go this direction to become an actress. I'm going to have to go a different route. And that's really what tonight is about, is taking other routes to get to where you want to go, and not thinking that's all about being in this street, that you have to go in this straight line to get there, or a traditional way to get there. You have to be creative. You have to be able to be resourceful, and you need to have the guts to do that, and the risk that it's going to take that will take you on this place of discovery and learn things about yourself that you didn't know were there. And even when you get to a place where people who love their job, but this is it, I'm not going to go anywhere else. What are you going to do? Are you going to go somewhere else where it's also going to be a dead place? Or are you going to maybe create these opportunities for you? And then maybe that's what you do, is you create these opportunities for you, or for yourself, in terms of what is going to really be next, and sitting down and thinking about what that is. But in order for you to find out what's next, you have to discover things about yourself, explore specific things about yourself. And when you start to feel that light go off, or that energy level goes up within your belly, that might be something you need to dig in deeper to do. I'm working with a client now, and she's wanting to move into doing some things in fashion, and she did the work. I am so proud of her. She immediately said, you know what, after doing some research, I think maybe editing is not where I want to go. Maybe I want to kind of use this other route, and then let's create a plan around that. So you need to be very realistic about what it is that you do, but then how are you going to bring those skills to the table? Researching, and you always hear people say investing in yourself. That's fantastic, and you should invest in yourself. And at the same time, while you're investing in yourself, make sure that what you're investing in is going to get that return on investment. Because it may be something very small that you need to do that will crack the door wide open for you to really recognize what you have within yourself. So if you're looking to change careers, talk to people who are doing those roles, but make sure they're people who are successful at what they do and they are happy at what they're doing. Because if you're talking to someone who's burned out, they're going to be negative about the industry. They're not going to give you the good stuff. They're going to give you all the light that they're going to give you inside, when you really want the good, bad, and the ugly, so you can assess what's next for you. Someone who's an entrepreneur, who's looking to become an entrepreneur, that's a whole other avenue. And if you are not ready to really explore who you are for real, you may want to think about becoming an entrepreneur, because you are going to be forced, and I'm saying forced, you will be forced to look at yourself. You will be forced to look at how you communicate. You're going to be forced to look at how you build your relationships. You're going to be forced to look at how organized you are. You'll be forced to look at how you handle your finances. All of those things, you're going to have to look at all those things and really assess where your strengths and weaknesses are if you're looking to do that. I have another question from Leah. She says, how valuable is having a mentor? Would you recommend having a career/professional mentor as well as a spiritual or personal mentor? Absolutely. Because, when you are going on this journey of trying to find out what it is you want to do next in your career, it can bring up emotions. It's human nature. So if you're looking at something where it's you wanting to have this professional career mentor, they're the person who's going to give things to you from this professional perspective, right? Well, the spiritual or personal mentor is the one who can give that to you from within. Following that, that's why I say your intuition, your gut, that is number one when it comes to strategically looking at being bold and making those changes, or taking control of your career and saying, you know what, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to wait for my boss to sit here and say to me, you know what, we just feel like you're not ready for this promotion and we gave it to such and such, or, you know what, you need to work on A, B, C, and D first. And you're like, in your mind, you know what you are capable of. The one thing you can't have when you're ready to take yourself to the next level in your career, or if you're ready to make a change, is you can't have self-denial or self-doubt. And if you know in your heart, when it came into your mind and you said, I can do this, and you felt it in your belly, you can do it. And don't allow your manager or someone like that to hold you back. What you do is find another way to make it happen. And we're not talking about being unrealistic and dropping off the, putting your family at risk financially and things like that, but being very strategic in how you go about doing that. And a mentor, career professional mentor, can help you with that. And the spiritual or personal mentor can help you with the emotional pieces. If you know that during this journey, one of the things we sometimes don't do well is manage our emotions. They can help to balance it. They can help to balance that out. We have a Twitter question. I think we have a tweet. Oh, it looks like she said, did you really get the job, or was that a joke? Absolutely. Always. There's only a couple of jobs that maybe I was turned down for, but you know what? That was okay, because I didn't want them. I honestly did not want them anyway. So in my core of my heart, I did not want those jobs. So therefore, when they said, well, we selected another candidate, I was like, I'm cool with that, because I really wasn't digging that anyway. So you really have to be genuine and true to that. And when you are, it's going to show. But you definitely have to start with, with who you are. Another thing that you can do in terms of what I feel like a strategic way that you can that you can take your career to the next level is do self-promotion. I know that may sound like a selfie thing, but do self-promotion. And what I mean by self-promotion is, make that portfolio, put it out there on LinkedIn, connect with people and put it out there what you've accomplished and what you achieved, and take the time to utilize some of your skills in different environments. So for me, when I was working for the nonprofit and they wanted me to come in and do the help with the orientation, I said, you know what? I think I'm going to put together an actual presentation with information, and I'm going to do this and facilitate it from that way. No one told me to do that. I did it on my own, and it was very effective. And so sometimes you have to find those opportunities to shine in the workplace. And that to me is being very strategic, is finding those opportunities to shine. And that itself, to me, in my mind, when I think about the workplace, that to me is self-promotion. Because what you're doing is saying, I'm going to show you I can do this. And I'm not asking for your permission to do it. I'm going to do it. And that sometimes is what you have to do. You have to put it out there and do that. And then show and believe in what it is that you're trying to convey. And believe in that. Your manager does not hold the cards. You own your career. You own it. Own it. And that means creating opportunities for you to be able to display those things about yourself that are very important in terms of expressing who you are as a professional and what you want and how you're going to get there. And just like Leah had asked in the question, having a career/professional mentor, having someone on the spiritual side, and having a combination of both of those things is a fantastic balance to be able to do that. And you have to always think about what is next for you. So when you get to this place where you're starting to say, okay, I'm great at this, but now I'm not feeling as much energy, or I'm not feeling as fulfilled doing this role as I have been. Are you staying because it pays the bills? Or are you staying because you're afraid to move forward? And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're staying for money, and if you're staying because you're afraid, guess what? You're going to stay right where you are. And when you're forced to leave, because when the divine comes in, you're going to be pushed out whether you like it or not. Are you ready? Are you really ready for what could be next? If you're not preparing yourself for what's next where you are right now, when you come out of that, then guess what? You're going to be scrambling, thinking, what are you going to do? But if you are thinking about, and Marsha, hey, Marsha, if you're watching, her and I talked about this, and I've always agreed with that. And this is the way I have been thinking in my career for the past 7-8 years, is that you have to think about the end result in mind when you're accepting these roles. That's being strategic. Being strategic in terms of thinking about your end result. What's next for me when I leave here? If I accept this job, how long am I going to stay? What am I going to get out of it to go to the next level? And I know you guys have heard us talk about this on different hangouts before, but it is a strategic way to own your career. You own it. For example, oh, okay, what are you saying here? All right, she said that was a joke, but that's okay. For example, I wanted to share that I had someone who said to me, I was doing a speaking engagement, and I wanted to keep it separate from where I was currently working. When I got back to my manager, that I had this engagement, so when I got to work the next morning, she said, wow, she says, well, how was your event yesterday? And I said, oh, the event went fine. How did you know about that? She says, oh, well, someone just, had showed me, is this the, share that works for you? And she was like, yeah. And I'm thinking in my mind, oh, the company must have tweeted it out or kind of really, did something like that. And then she says, oh, okay, well, she thinks she's a guru. And I'm thinking to myself, honey, this is not about a guru. You didn't hurt my feelings because I know where I'm going. And so you need to think about that. Keep those things in mind when things like that happen to you. Know where you are going and how you're going to get there. And even if there's a roadblock, how are you going to kick that roadblock down and still keep it going? Or how you go step over the roadblock, climb over it, jump, leap, whatever you got to do to keep it moving. So you have to keep your end result in mind when you do that. So self-promotion, I see, looks like here, Whitney tweeted out what we just talked about, which is self-promotion is the key. Create a portfolio and ensure to get target opportunities for your personal brand to shine. And you have to do that. You have to self-promote yourself. If you are not your biggest cheerleader, who is going to be that for you? Your boss? Your coworker? Your husband? Your kids? Really? You're going to be your biggest self-promoter. And that's what you need to do. You need to do that for yourself and seek those opportunities to be able to do that in the workplace. And even for you guys who are looking to make that transition from entrepreneurship, that is going to be something you're going to constantly be working on all the time in terms of being able to self-promote yourself and what it is that you're doing, the service or product that you're trying to bring to the people of the audience that you're trying to serve. So that's important for you to understand what that is. And it's important for you to know who you are as a professional and identify with that. Two things I can say is that, and I've said this before, for those of you who are trying to make a change in terms of career or maybe a leap into a new career, change careers, or you're just trying to go all out and just do a 360, do the Strength Finder assessment to figure out what your top 5 strengths are. And, work with a coach like myself or someone else who can help to assess those top 5 strengths to figure out where your strengths are. And that way it gives you a place to start when you're looking at trying to build this new path for yourself. And that's being strategic. Strategic is really about thinking outside the box in terms of making things happen for yourself. So if I want to leave you with the 3 strategic ways, you have to be intuitive. You have to be curious and you need to explore, right? Those are 3 together. You have to start with that. If you have those things about you, you go listen to your gut, you are, curious in terms of and being able to explore, that's a start. That's where you start. The next part is a discovery and having the confidence to discover what that is and not being afraid to try something different, to bring out new skill sets about yourself. And the last thing is self-promoting and creating opportunities and looking for opportunities to toot your own horn, but also create opportunities to show what you got. Or at least, if you believe you can do it, creating opportunities to show that you can. And it may not be in your traditional setting. It may be something in another environment that you can record and you can, or put on your resume, or it could be a video, or it could be anything that's going to be related to what you want to do next. Whitney has another question for us. She says, how do you create opportunities to grow professionally if your job consumes most of your time? That's a good question. Very good question. How do you create opportunities? If you wanted to create the top opportunities within work, then you need to sit down with your manager and say, these are some of the things I would like to do within the workplace, and see how you can incorporate those into what you're doing. Now, if you're in a job that consumes most of your time, then you need to look at the task that you are doing on the job and saying, are these tasks mundane? Or looking at your organizational time management skills, is it you, or is it the task, and or the task something that's required for you to do in the job, or is it just additional things that you could possibly, if you're in a position that you can delegate some of those things to someone else. And if you can delegate those things to someone else, that can free up time for you to create opportunities for you professionally within that same workplace, then do so. But looking at specifically what that is, where it's coming from first, assess where it's coming from, whether it's your organization time management skills that may be lacking, or maybe they're on point. You just got too much work. And then if your organization skills are on point, but then it really is about the workload, then if there's an opportunity for you to delegate and hand something off to free you up, then you need to do that. But you have to assess if that's what's really going on. So at the end of the day, in terms of being strategic, you definitely need to know who you are, be intuitive, and follow your gut instinct. If I didn't follow my gut instinct, I would have never became, a coach. I would have never made this career change. And I was drawn to that, but I trusted myself enough in who I am to go off of my instinct and move forward with that. And then discover specific things, tools and things to help me to become a great coach. But only on top of that, then it opened the door for me to discover things about myself that I had inner desires for, but never had an opportunity to display that talent because I didn't position myself to have the opportunity to do that. Some of the jobs that I had, the opportunity was just not there. So just do not be afraid to take risk. Do not be afraid to listen to your intuition and your gut, and be realistic about that. Now, I will have to say, I'm going to share this. In my past life, I probably would have loved to have been an interior decorator, but go figure, look at my office. But I love that. I love to do that. And and if I had to do it all over again, that probably would have been an option for me as well. So you have to be realistic. Would I give up everything that I've done now to go do interior design? Are you crazy? Not that I wouldn't do it, but realistically, everything that it takes to become one in a sense like that, it takes time. Now, interior decorating, oh yeah, I can have that as a side hustle all day long. But we're talking about being realistic in terms of what you know, but you need to think about making sure that what it is you want to do is in line with who you are and the natural innate strengths and gifts that you have. And your strength finder can help to bring those things out. And even they have the strength finder for you guys who are thinking about being an entrepreneur. They also have the strength finder for the entrepreneur as well. And so really being in line with what those strengths really are and what you can learn about yourself. The discovery process, is something that will continue to happen throughout your journey of your career. Because once you get to one phase and you ask what's next for that second journey, when that third journey hits, you might say, you know what, I'm retiring, I'm sitting down somewhere. You don't know. Kentucky Fried KF Sanders, he opened up his KFCs. He was like 60 something years old when he did that. And that way he was on another phase in his life after he had failure when it came to being an entrepreneur. So you can't be afraid of failing, because you will. I failed at my first attempt of being a manager. After being in corporate recruitment for so long, I was like, you know what? I've done this. I'm ready to go into a manager role or be a recruiting manager. And I did it. And my first round of applying for positions, and I interviewed for one, and I got the job. But I didn't succeed at that job because there were once I went to a level of influence, I wasn't ready for some of the things that I needed to do to really be in that role. And it wasn't that I wasn't a good manager to my team, but I didn't have some of those things that are needed when it comes to playing the game and the hidden workplace rules and understanding the dynamics of that. But also I wasn't being intuitive. I wasn't listening to my gut. I wasn't trusting what I was feeling and the things I was seeing around me as being true. I felt like as though, oh, that's not really true. I'm not seeing that. I wasn't being true to who I was. And that's why I was not being successful in that role in that instance. So you have to remember those things. So want to go ahead and wrap up for tonight. we're going to be having another career conversation in 2 weeks. It's going to be Your Career, Your Way, Part 2. And we're going to be having one of our new career mentors is going to be on the Google Hangout with us. Her name is Althea McIntyre, and she is a career coach with the bestcareerforme.com, and she is going to be on our Google Hangout next week, and we're going to be talking part 2 about really defining a lot of these things in terms of assessing who you are and talking about developing a blueprint based on the 3 strategies we talked about in terms of intuition and discovery and confidence and self-promotion, and building a strategy around that. And also, too, don't forget to join us on our Tuesday calls that we have, our Tuesday Real Career Talk calls every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, where we open up the dialogue for you to ask a career question of any kind. So when you come on these calls, don't be afraid to ask a question. Jump in and ask the question. That's what we're here for. We're here live to answer your questions and let you guys know that we are here for you with BCWN. To support you in your efforts to experience career empowerment in whatever direction you decide to go in your career. The last thing I want to share with you all is that our Columbus network, woohoo, Columbus, Ohio, they are having their first event on February 28th. It's going to be a meet, greet, and motivate, and they're going to be talking about really sharing some things about the network, what we've done, where we're going. And, what's coming for their network as well. It's going to be our first network event outside of just our local Cincinnati network. So we're really excited about that. And so there's going to definitely be some more cities that will be listed to come that will have some local events to be coming up soon. I know we've had some inquiries about Chicago and Indianapolis and Atlanta. So we're looking to work on some of those for you ladies. Can't say when, but it's coming. And also, too, you can actually share your Twitter comments on our feed about tonight's career conversation. You can also Facebook us if you have a topic that you want us to talk about on a career conversation. You can email that to me at ssims@bcwnetwork.com. And Whitney says 614, my hometown. Whoop whoop! Yeah, Columbus, we're coming, y'all. We're coming. Yes, Whitney, we are coming to Columbus. So you can email me at ssims@bcwnetwork.com if you have an idea for a great topic for a career conversation that we can, and we'll be more than happy to talk about that. And then we'll be more than happy to, if you have any specific guests that you would like to see on our, our career conversations, we definitely will try our best to reach out to see if there's any interest in them being on our career conversation. One last thing I want to share with you guys is that we are going to be doing a local network for Cincinnati. As I know, sometimes Cincinnati is like, oh, what's next for us? We are going to be doing another meet, greet, and motivate for Cincinnati as well. So that's going to be coming up soon, in addition to our empowerment social. And then for those of you who like to watch or listen to the radio online, Monday night I will be on 1230 of The Buzz, which is a local Cincinnati AM station, with Jerry Tolliver and she does Sister Speaks. So I will be on there Monday 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, talking about careers and transitioning and what can you do next. And so we'll be talking about that as well on her show. So I want to thank a lot of the viewers who have shown. If you're not a member, please join us at bcwnetwork.com. We would love to have you. Our network is growing. 35 communities, including London, England, and Toronto. Woohoo! And also, too, we want to keep them growing and keep them growing. And one thing I want to share with you guys that we talked about on our calls on Tuesday is making sure that you connect with the women. Make sure you go into your local network and build a tribe or a village around your career. Find a support system for yourself that will help to support you in your career. It will make a difference. You are not alone. We are here for you, Black women. That's what this is all about. You don't have to go through this journey alone. You have a place where you can come, share your experiences in your journey, and get what you need to take yourself to the next step. Last but not least, I want to leave you guys with my quote that I share, And I have one more I want to share before I say my last one. And someone asked me about this last week, and I want to share this. And it's from a well-known female pastor. The life God gave you is larger than the life you've been living. Think about that for a minute, what that means. He's giving you these special innate talents and gifts in yourself. Have you discovered what those are? And are you using them? So with that in mind, I'm going to leave you with this. Know your worth, discover your strength, and work on your purpose. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.